everyone, I'm Jess, and I'm the content manager here at Course Report, which is a resource for helping people find the right coding boot camps for them. You can use the Course Report website to research the best coding boot camps all over the world, as well as insights on what coding languages to learn, where to apply, and how to fund your own coding bootcamp experience. Today, I'm speaking with Ashley Austin, a recent grad of Codesmith's remote software engineering immersive bootcamp in Los Angeles, who now works remotely as a senior associate software engineer at Boulevard. So Ashley, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I've got a bunch of questions for you about what it's like to learn online and to do your job search remotely. But let's dive in first with what you were up to before pivoting into software engineering. So what were you doing before Codesmith?
Before Codesmith, I was a project engineer in the construction world. And then before that, I worked at AT&T. So I was kind of bouncing around from these like technical like jobs, really trying to figure out like what my niche is or find something I felt like really spoke to me. So yeah, I was doing a bit of everything, but the very last position I had was as a project engineer in the construction field.
And since you were in sort of a tech adjacent role, why did you feel like going to a coding bootcamp was the next step for you?
Yeah, I felt I needed to learn how to learn, right? Like learn how to learn the language. And I feel like that was most important. As we all know, information is key. So if I could go to a place that is going to teach me how to consume that information and give me that information, I felt like that was the place for me. So that was how I came about that experience. But then also it happened for me by me looking for a new job. Like I knew my last job was not what I wanted to do for the next 5, 10, 20 years of my life. And ironically, the title I had was project engineer. So I was trying to find maybe another job as a project engineer, and software engineer came up on my search. And from there, I started to look more into software engineering. I was like, oh, this is something that I actually wanted to go to school for in college, but my school didn't have that as a major. So I was like, all right. So I looked more into it, and a year later, here I am.
Love it. I'd love to know about your research process, just because there's so many coding bootcamps out there now. So why did you ultimately choose Codesmith?
The community. So I went to some workshops, and the first day I wrote a function. And I got it to spit out some type of output.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, I really like this, right? I was already someone that, like, I enjoyed math. Like, I was good in math in school. So, like, the whole idea of, like, writing, formulas, like, A plus B equals C, like, I'm okay with that idea. So, Codesmith just made it easy for me to learn. Like, the workshops were very intuitive. The instructors were really, really nice. And then the people I was in there with, it was comforting to know that I wasn't the only person that was looking to get out of the job that they were currently in. So that helped.
And once you chose Codesmith as the bootcamp you wanted to go to, what was their application and interview process like? And like, how did you prepare for it?
Yeah, so I prepared by going to every single workshop.
Yeah.
I'll answer that first. I went to every single workshop. Seriously, from the first day I went to the first workshop, I never missed the workshop. They have an easy parts and the hard parts. As well as the easy part, hard parts, they have a CS prep, they have a JavaScript for beginners. And I made sure that this was going to be something that was for me, because immediately I knew it just spoke to me, not just JavaScript the language itself, but just programming in general. So I took those steps, because Codesmith is not just about being able to write the function. You need to be able to like actually like articulate and speak it. So speak your logic out loud. And that was the process of like going to the workshops of like not only learning how to write the function,
Hmm.
but know how to properly like articulate what it is that I am doing. So that process lasted for a few months.
Oh.
But the interview process for me was really, I wanted to make sure that I was ready for the technical
Hmm.
interview. Um, so that portion of it, you have a interview where they just speak to you. It's a where they're just asking you about yourself, right? Just to make sure that you're ready for the program.
Hmm.
And once you pass that portion, then it's the technical interview. The technical interview are a series of problems, and you have to not only like code those problems, but you have to speak your logic out loud. So, so my process of getting ready for it was like making sure that as I'm like writing code, that I'm comfortable speaking out loud with my
Hmm.
logic. So that 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 lasted for some time, but it was good because I had a community of people that were also trying to get into the program.
Hmm.
So we would just meet and we would go over problems together. So yeah.
And just a quick question too about the workshops. So were you doing the workshops and then still basically working full time at your previous job until you were ready to like do the switch?
Yep.
Okay,
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly. And then it became a time to where I just needed to leave my last job. I
Yeah.
think it was within 2 months, I realized that in order for me to really like immerse myself into it, like I needed to immerse myself before the immersive program.
Mm.
Like I couldn't be halfway in and halfway out.
Yeah.
Uh, and that was because this was a career jump completely
Yeah.
for me. So I needed to not only make sure for the program, but make sure for myself that this is the right
Hmm. And technically you started the Codesmith boot camp in person, but then you had to switch
yes.
online due to the coronavirus pandemic. So how did Codesmith help you transition from being in person, which you were prepared for, to then being a remote learner?
Yeah. I feel like the for one, the process of learning how to learn
Hmm.
helped with that transition of being in a place to where you have fellow cohort mates that you have to work through problems and build projects with, and
Hmm.
then going into a space to where you now may have to figure out these problems by yourself. I feel like Codesmith kind of like groomed us to be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Outside of that, the transition was fairly easy.
Mm.
They gave us about, I think, like a week or two just off because we were all trying to figure out what was going on,
Yeah.
what the world was going through, and then they had given us a $1,200 stipend to kind of like set up our at-home workspace. So if you need a desk, if you need to buy an iPad, whatever it is you need to make you
Cool.
succeed, they gave us that option. And they gave it to everyone. Then they also stated that of course, if you chose not to continue with the program, which was, I feel, admirable of them, to where they still gave you the option to say that you could leave the program and
Yeah.
then get your refund. Um, of course, I chose to stay, but they made that process very very easy for sure.
And once you switched to their online format, how did they teach the curriculum? Like, was it live lectures or did they
Yeah,
send you recorded lectures?
yeah, it was live,
Oh,
and
cool.
and I think lucky for me because I did their JavaScript for beginners and CS prep.
Hmm.
That was the same thing. I
Mm.
was learning, from I was learning about JavaScript and learning about Node.js and learning about all the intricacies of like JavaScript in the beginning of time of me learning it by just like Zoom.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I so I started learning that way in the beginning, honestly. Outside of the workshops, the actual prep programs they have are all via Zoom, so it's not in the classroom. So that that I feel like for them, it was a very easy transition
Mm.
because as a program, they already have lectures like that. They already have programs that have been in place
Hmm.
that have just been strictly over Zoom or video. So that helped them for sure.
And I know that a lot of people like to go to the in-person boot camps just for the sense of like in-person community that you get from that.
Yeah,
So for you,
yeah.
once you had to switch to the remote version of Codesmith, how did you keep in contact with like your instructors, any TAs, or even your like cohort peers?
Yeah, so it it really allowed you to get a glimpse or
Mm-hmm.
idea of what the agile lifestyle would be. You know,
Mm-hmm.
working in an agile system where you have a stand up now, right?
Yeah.
Before it was like school, you know,
Yeah.
you show up, you know, class starts at 9,
Yeah.
class ends. But now this is like, okay, now I'm a grown up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
now, you know, I have my teammates, you know, and we have a project, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we have MVP that's to be hit. We have stretch goals. So
Mm-hmm.
every morning we'll, you know, meet. So that was kind of how like we kept in touch. But then they made sure that they sent out a calendar, of course, to all of us to
Yeah.
where we would, you know, stay on track as well. So they did a really good job at that. Like I will say within the 2 weeks, um, outside of the fact that I of course like anyone would have loved to be in the, you know, classroom and
Right.
interact with your peers, but as a company I feel like they did a good job at transitioning us,
Mm.
and the lectures didn't feel like, you know, we had lost information because of that.
Mm.
The lectures I feel like were just as impactful, but at that point for me I was more so in the senior phase.
Mm.
So the lectures weren't about the technologies.
Mm-hmm.
The lectures were more about like higher end things.
Yeah.
So I wasn't learning like the, you know, React or any of the JavaScript
Right.
technologies at that point. But I think that even if that was the case, I don't think that it would have affected much. To be honest.
And overall, both the in-person learning and then the remote learning that you did at Codesmith, did you feel like their style of teaching matched your own personal learning style?
Yes, a great instructor that that once was at Codesmith, Snow.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he had a saying of research, parse, implement. And I think if anyone has ever been to Codesmith, and if you go to Codesmith now or you plan to go to Codesmith, just know that that will be the implementation of how you're going to learn. You research, you parse it, you implement.
Mm-hmm.
And that is engineering at its finest. There is not an engineer that just knows it all. I don't think anyone comes out the womb knowing it all. You have to research, you know, you have to be given the information and try it out,
Yeah.
fail, you know, figure it out again. And I'm I'm that type of person. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be that type of person that's okay with failure because the more you fail at at something or getting to a solution, you're only getting closer to that solution.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you don't start failing to get to that solution that you're furthest from it. So I think they definitely taught us that
Mm-hmm.
um, from the beginning. I was like, hey, if you get an error, that's fine. Figure it out. You know.
Yeah.
So they definitely did well with instilling that into me, or really like awakening that part of me to where like I'm already a tinkerer. So like
Mm-hmm.
once if there's a problem and I know that there's a solution and tools to get to that solution, I like to figure it out. And Codesmith drills that into you. They give you the tools and the information and the know-how to implement those tools. So yeah.
And just like off the top of your head, like what did you learn while you were at Codesmith?
Oh
I
yeah.
know a lot.
Yeah, a lot. But I would say the most important thing is console log.
Mm.
uh, console log is like if you're trying to figure something out, console log, the importance of documentation,
Mhm.
right? That it honestly goes back to the research first and implement. Like that was the most important thing that I really learned because it allowed me to, if there was a technology that I thought was just like this mythic technology, it
Mhm.
allowed me to look at it as like, if it's David and there's this giant, like now I see it as like, oh, I can understand this.
Mhm.
All I have to do is read the documentation. All I have to do is research and then parse through the documentation, figure out what I need from that and implement it, and then
Mhm.
it'll work.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was the most important thing. It was like to not be afraid to onboard a new technology, um, because in the workforce or when you're getting out there looking for a job, even though you may be your primary language may be JavaScript, Ruby, whatever it may be, that that job may ask for you to learn another language on the spot,
Mhm.
and don't be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Just know that you have the tools of at least knowing how to learn a language
Mhm.
and take those same tools to learn a new language. So I definitely thank Code Smith for giving me that courage and giving me just that information just to know how to do that.
Another element of coding boot camps that we love to hear about is what kinds of projects students are working on.
Yep.
So I'd love to know, like, did you work on any group projects? And did you build like a final project?
Yes. So with Codesmith, you in total, I believe you built 4 projects
Wow.
within like 2 months
Yeah.
or a month and a half. Uh, it's a lot. It's truly an immersive program because they really teach you like in the workplace you may have multiple features or things that you need to add
Mhm.
and things that need to be done. You need to do it quickly. It's a 2-week sprint to get
Mhm.
that done. Get it done. So for us, the first project was your solo project. That was our first time, like blank canvas, like doing something, just taking the information we learned about Node.js, React, Redux, and just building anything that we want. Building
Mhm.
a CRUD app, right? Create, read, update, delete. And then after that was our first group project. The group project was also something that we got to choose what we wanted it to be.
Mhm.
Um, Using the technologies that Codesmith gave us. And then the third project was an iteration project where, similar to real life, you take someone else's project and you iterate on it. So you make it better. So someone within the cohort.
Mhm.
So if they worked on something, uh, grocery cart planner, you take
Yeah.
that and you enhance that, right? So
Cool.
that was the third. Yeah, it was cool. And then the fourth was the actual production project
Mhm.
where you come up with the MVP and then you have a stretch goal and things like that. That specifically was very important because we chose technologies that we wanted to dive deeper into, but we also chose technologies that we didn't
Mhm.
know about. And the whole purpose was to make developer tools. So make a tool that developer like yourself could use.
Mhm.
What's a technology that's out there, but it's missing something, and create a tool that's going to, give that something. And I think that's probably like the most like impactful part of Codesmith, that may separate them is that you're building a tool. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna build a newsfeed app. I'm gonna build a React app. You did that your first application, which was 3 projects. you know, and and as far as the timeline, that would only be like a month before that.
Yeah.
You had already had 3 projects under your belt. Now it's like, okay, now I'm going to give you 2 weeks and build me a tool.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. But as scary as it was, that was the part that it's like, oh, this is engineering, you know,
Yeah.
and this is going through, you know, just like the times of not knowing with someone saying like, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And then now I look back at that project and I say, oh, that's not that hard. You know, like
Yeah.
the implementation wasn't that difficult, but it was because it was uncharted territory.
Right.
Which goes back to research, parse, and implement. It goes back to like how I feel like Codesmith prepared us for onboarding new technologies really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're not afraid to do that in the real life, right?
Yeah.
And then the fifth, oh, actually it was 5 projects. I'm sorry.
Oh.
The fifth project, I thought, yeah, I totally forgot. The fifth project, we only had a week. And the fifth project is a reinforcement project
Okay.
where you reinforce whatever technologies that you want to, you know, learn more about. If it's
Yeah.
Redux, GraphQL, whatever it is, even if you want to learn TypeScript, you want to get more into that, React Native, you can get more into that with those projects. But the production project was definitely like the most important for us.
And since you were at Bootcamp when COVID was striking the US, and then that means that you were then starting a job search during the COVID-19 pandemic, I'd love to know like how Codesmith prepared your cohort for the job hunt.
Yeah. Codesmith already has a hiring program that is
Cool.
embedded into the program. And by far, it is supposed to be, if you talk to anyone, it is the meat and potatoes of the program. It is like what you should or want to go to the program for, like that. Like yes, learn how to learn, but the hiring program, after you know gaining all this information and knowledge, now what are you going to do?
Right.
You have to find a job, and they definitely like show you the ropes for sure. They show you. There's an entire hiring program that goes on for I think at least like 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
And actually, it's still going on now. Like they still have workshops even after I'm done with the program.
Mm-hmm.
They still have workshops with people who are still like trying to find a job, but they help you with like your application process.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like teaching you the different websites to go to. The resume is probably the most important part of that entire application program.
Yeah.
Where you have, I think they put us through 3 rounds of resume. So we iterated on our resume 3 times. So we created a resume, and then they did their editing, and then we had to go back and edit it again. And they looked at it, and they edited it. Like it was intense. It was by far the most intense resume process that I've been through ever. But I thank them for that, because now that will be the only way I will ever write a resume. To be honest with you. And then they just taught you how to apply. Like they got you ready for, you know, hey, there's a certain way you need to apply for these jobs in the tech industry. When you're entering the industry, there's a certain way that they expect you to apply, and you need to understand how that process goes. You need to understand that there's a phone screen. You need to understand that if you pass the phone screening, then you go to this portion. And then, you know, so they were getting us ready for that. We did mock interviews. You know, we were getting our narrative ready. Like they did a really, really good job at preparing every step of the. They didn't just say, get a loan with us, learn this information, you graduate, go get a job. They were like, okay, you know, you got this far, but in order to get to the finish line, these are the extra tools that you need.
Yeah. And Codesmith offers networking days, I believe. So what was your experience with those?
It was good. It was the networking days, if if I am understanding you correctly, are you speaking about the hiring day where we speak to
Yeah.
people that, you know, are working at companies, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to learn a little bit
It
more
was
about
good.
that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was so me. I interviewed. It was actually it went in two ways. It could either come off as like an actual phone screening,
Hmm.
where that person is helping you, you know, with like your narrative. So for 15 minutes, you know, they'll give you like an interview, you
Hmm.
know, um, or it could have been as though it was just a conversation, for you to like speak to that person.
Hmm.
Now, depending on the company that graduate or whoever is there for that day, if their company is hiring, then you know, great, you may end up landing, you know, a job from that interview or from that talk with that representative.
Yeah.
But if not, it was still a good chance to really like ask the right questions to people who are working in the industry now,
Hmm.
people who have been through the application process, to see like what what you should do once you
Hmm.
get to that point. So it was cool. I interviewed with someone from PayPal. I interviewed with someone
Cool.
from a company called Beauty Counter. I think I interviewed. There was one more. Oh, and I interviewed with someone from IBM. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's great experience.
Oh yes, yes. It was a good.
Um, and then once you graduated from Codesmith and were just sort of out on your own, like how did you structure your own remote job search? Like what methods worked for you?
Cool. This was the most tedious part. It
Right?
was yeah, it was the most tedious part. But there it was a group of us,
Yeah.
and every day at 9 a.m. we did mock interviews and we rotated people. So
Wow.
we did our mock interviews every day for 3 weeks. It was 5 or 6 of us,
Yeah.
and it really depended on the person. But me personally, I would give people like real interviews. Like I would create like a sandbox, like React app, and tell them they had to build like a simple like counter React.
That's
Like
awesome.
I would list out, like I would have their resume. I would have
Yeah.
all these questions, like the like JavaScript questions. Like I would give people an interview. I would like fake like it was a phone screen, call them on the phone,
Yeah.
act like they passed that, and then give them a Zoom call, and then switch character into like being like a software engineer and do like
Yeah.
I did the. But I feel like it takes that. It to be honest with you, it takes a village, right?
Yeah.
To really get you to that point. And I really think that process, like it was days to where I didn't want to wake up and interview for an hour with someone I just interviewed with yesterday, you know,
Right.
because they're not someone giving me a job. They're just a friend of mine. That's like,
Right.
you know, someone I work with. But it was a lot of help because I would encourage anyone that's, you know, in a boot camp now or just now getting out of it
Hmm.
to come together with a group of people and do that. Like mock interview each other. There are tons of resources out there that you'll have a pretty good understanding of what type of questions might come up in the interview process. To be honest with you, there's only so much they can ask you.
Right.
Uh, you know, if it's JavaScript, just know you can look up like interview JavaScript questions, and you
Hmm.
know you can figure out how to just better prepare yourself. And I feel like going into the interview process, you have to be okay with knowing that you're you're not going to be the best fit for every company,
Hmm.
right? You're just not going to ace every phone screen. Not every recruiter you talk to is going to love Ashley, you know, but
Right.
that's okay. But that, you know, that doesn't mean that you're not fit for another job. You know, that closed door only means that there's an open door waiting. You know,
Hmm.
you just have to get there. You know, you have to get through that process. And Coach Smith introduced the mock interview process like to us,
Yeah.
and it was just a group of us that said, "Hey, we're going to take this and run with it." And I'm pretty sure out of our group, or out of our class, we were
Yeah.
the only ones that did that. Yeah, we did that. We pitched in on I think we purchased
Hmm.
Algo Expert, and then like we would like put in our times. Like I'll say, okay, from 10:30 to 12:30, I'm gonna go on there, and then someone else will say, okay, I'm gonna have it from 9:30 to 11:30. So we would like we took every measure from
Yeah.
algorithms to mock interviews. We made sure we get into this process. We are going to be as ready as possible.
That's awesome. I've never heard of that,
Yeah,
and I think that's an amazing
yeah.
idea for other people to try.
It is.
I also
Try
noticed
it.
too that you worked on some open source projects before landing your
Yes,
current full-time position. Do you recommend that other
I
people
did.
on the job hunt right now like work on some open source projects?
Yes, absolutely. And take it serious as
Mm.
though that it's an actual like job, like a company. Because I feel like, I mean, most tech companies start off as just open source.
Right.
There's some that they start there. So I would say definitely like get a group of people together, or if you're in a program, if that program doesn't already offer that opportunity of like open source projects,
Hmm.
um, then do that for yourself. Definitely, most definitely. It's important. That process of structure, the
Yeah.
process of going from ideation of thinking about like having an idea, and then uh, narrowing it down to, okay, this is what we're going to do, and these are the technologies that make sense.
Hmm.
Because that's what happens in the real world. And then actually implementing, setting deadlines,
Yeah.
having those deadlines pushed back. Um, I think all of those things will happen if you are, getting into the open source realm. It will definitely be a benefit to you, for sure.
Yeah, and it sounds like too, like participating or working on open source projects, and then also if you can find some friends to do algorithms and then the mock interviews, it's just like a great way
Yeah,
to stay sharp, like while you're in that job search, craziness.
it is a awesome. It is a awesome way. Like now, I'm sure that there's not many jobs that your everyday is going to be solving algorithms, but
Right.
it's like iron sharps iron. Like you have to look at algorithms or like crossword puzzles
Mm.
for engineers. It like that's literally, it's like you're just staying sharp. You're just knowing how to use these tools, just like people know how to use words.
Hmm. Yeah.
Some people are wordsmiths. You're a codesmith.
Yep.
No point intended, right? But that's honestly like what I feel like more people need to understand about that
Yeah.
process, or even like understanding algorithms. It's like, yeah, like it's great to know them, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. You may not be a master at it, but
Yeah.
the more you practice it, the more you're comfortable with it, and
Yeah.
that's all that matters.
So I would love to know about your current job that you have at Boulevard. What does
Yeah.
Boulevard specifically do? Like, what problems is it solving?
Yeah. So it is a platform that is a business management tool,
Okay.
uh, specifically in the space of companies that are appointment based.
Okay.
So if you're like a med spa, if you're a salon, if you're a barbershop, um, all of those companies have, people that have appointments,
Hmm.
and we've all, been to a salon or barbershop where the person that's supposed to cut our hair is probably 30 minutes late,
Yeah.
or it may take a little bit too long. So our tool is to help manage not only that process, but help the business owner manage their business
Oh, cool.
as well. Like from beginning to like everything you could think about when it
Yeah.
comes to like managing a business that is a salon. Our tool is meant for that, for sure.
Um, and what is your current role at the company?
Yeah. I am a platform operations senior software engineer.
Got it.
That is, as of recently, they're now realizing that they need a platform operations team, like
Hmm.
a team that just deals with any of the operations with the platform. So if there's enhancements, any bugs or tickets,
Yeah.
we'll deal with that. Originally, I was hired on as just like the onboarding software engineer,
Hmm.
which the onboarding part is onboarding our new clients into our system,
Hmm.
um, like helping with that process. But yeah, my role specifically is dealing with everything platform operations.
Cool. And how did you find this job? Was it a connection through Codesmith, or did you find this on your own?
I actually found it on my own
Hmm.
during my job search, applying to almost 100 jobs.
Wow.
Yeah, and ironically, this job fits so much because about a year or two ago,
Yeah.
I had wrote down in my iPhone like an actual app idea about application that would help barbers like be more on time. Like
Yeah.
no, I swear. And I actually said this in my interview process. I said
Yeah.
it is ironic that I am interviewing with a company that like kind of like does that. I
Yeah.
said,
Doing
but
the thing.
I can
Yeah.
show you in my phone like this is what I wanted to happen, and now
Yeah.
it's happening for me.
Yeah.
So the universe is crazy like this.
I love that.
But right, right. But yeah, no, I found it on LinkedIn actually. Found the job on LinkedIn. Sure.
And what was it like to onboard remotely for this job? I'm guessing that you had to do it remotely.
Yeah, it was a great process
Oh,
actually.
cool.
Yeah, it was an awesome project. They 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 have like a whole platform training.
Oh, nice.
I actually took a platform training test last week, where it was like an hour and a half of me going through a script that I had to go through our platform and explain all the things that I have been taught about our platform.
Wow.
So it was a really they did a great job at that, and
Yeah.
that's something that immediately made me uh, just love everything about the company. But
Hmm.
then also it I feel like companies that onboard you better uh, help you become more of an empathetic engineer for what it is you are engineering,
Hmm.
because you understand your platform, understand why specific things were created to help the customer
Right.
or the end user. So for us, our end user is an actual salon owner or a person that's actually servicing someone and cutting their hair or med spa.
Hmm.
So these are people actually using our application. So as I'm learning about the things that I'll be involved in, it really made me empathetic into how I'll think about writing my code. And yeah, their process was great. It was a great onboard.
Without giving away any company secrets, what types of projects are you working on right now?
As of right now, I'm doing a lot of onboarding.
Okay.
I am on right.
It's a
As of right
comprehensive.
now,
Yeah.
yes, to be honest with you, I am doing a lot of onboarding of
Yeah.
our clients that are coming into Boulevard system,
Oh,
which is
cool.
great. Yeah, we have dates lined up for people who are launching with us, so I'm doing a lot of that as of late. That's probably the top priority
Hmm.
as of now.
And so far, are you using all of the languages, programming languages that you learned at Codesmith, or have you had to learn a lot of new things?
Definitely had to learn a lot of new things. I've had to learn Elixir, which
Mm-hmm.
is a language built on top of Erlang, and I absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. I can't wait until I like start to use it more and get better at it.
Mm.
And then Angular, which is something not taught at Codesmith, but I feel like if you understand React and JavaScript, you can understand Angular.
Hmm.
It's just their syntax is different. And then of course you would have to know TypeScript as well. So yeah, those are the three languages I never touched,
Yeah.
or not languages, three technologies
Yeah.
in one language that I never touched. And yeah, I'm writing it now. Definitely using it now. The one technology that we use heavily
Yeah.
is a database management system, Postgres. That's the one thing that we did learn at Codesmith that I am using on the job. So I'm using that quite a bit.
So what does like your typical day look like now that you're a full-time software engineer?
Yeah. So we have our stand-ups. Our stand-ups on Monday, we have an all-hands stand-up. That's at 9
Hmm.
a.m. where the company comes together, the CEO, founder, CTO, all of the people that are in management. They give like a recap of what is going on or what went on last week or any new hires or anything like that.
Yeah.
Then after that, you jump into your separate stand up. So then I have a stand up where it's when with our customer support uh, or customer success support team.
Hmm.
And that stand up is typically my my team, which is the platform ops team. It's then the customer success team's time to tell us if there's any tickets out there that they want us to work on, or if there are any issues that they're having with their clients.
Hmm.
They'll let us know. Then after that, we have another stand up with the platform ops team, and then we break, and then the rest of the day is actually just working on your tickets.
Yeah. Nose down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Work.
about it.
Yeah.
Yep. Then
Um,
it goes down.
did you feel prepared to just start working remotely like as soon as you got out of Codesmith, or has there still been some learning curves for you?
No, I actually felt really prepared.
Mm,
I felt really prepared. The process of going remote while like building developer tools and applications with our reinforcement project, it
mm,
really allowed for me to understand like what it would be like if this was the new norm for the
mhm.
rest of the year, possibly for me. So uh, it didn't affect me. It didn't affect me at all, to be honest with
Hmm.
you. It actually helped.
That's great to hear.
Actually helped. Yeah.
And do you have any advice for new remote developers who are like just starting out right now?
Yes. My advice is to not give up.
Mm,
My advice is to for the interview process. Unfortunately, you may not be able to actually, be in person.
mhm.
But that does not mean that during that interview process that you lose yourself or lose your personality.
Mm,
Because at the end of the day, you could be a great, great, great engineer. You could take this time, during COVID to learn all the technology, sharpen your tools, but just be a good human being, be an empathetic engineer at the end of the day,
yeah.
and kill it. Just really like keep at it, and research, parse, implement. Like
Mhm.
now is the best time to do that because you have all day. Like you're at home, hopefully,
Yeah.
or so right. So
Yeah.
you have all day to just research, and
Yeah.
then just find things that you didn't know, learn more about them, and go from there. But I honestly feel like this time will, if anything, make you a stronger engineer.
Mm,
Because if you could work together with someone without being able to tap them on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I need your help," you have to wait for them to return your Zoom call or your Slack message.
yeah.
Then imagine when you get back in the office. It's going to feel so much better. It's going to be so much easier because you're working next to someone.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a gift and a curse,
Yeah.
honestly. So
And Ashley, looking back at this journey that you've taken to getting into tech and learning to code, what do you think your biggest challenge or the biggest roadblock was for you?
Uh, Imposter monster,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
The biggest roadblock is something that I think a lot of people deal with just in life as you climb up the ladder of, life in general. Once you start to knock off those ticks on, your goals, you start to, ask yourself or question if you deserve it,
yeah,
because then there may be someone else that may have 5 years experience, meaning like 5 years as far as like how long they've been doing it. However, you have the just as much experience as far as like what you know, like your know-how is just as much as theirs. Then you start to question,
hmm
like, okay, am I a real software engineer? Um, and right, you start
yeah,
questioning like, yeah, I know I am, but am I?
yeah,
So I think once you start to realize that should not be a question, once you get rid of, or not even get rid of, because I feel like you'll always have that imposter monster will come back and forth here and there whenever
hmm
you're like dealing with, some problem that unfortunately you just hit a roadblock on. You're like, why can't I figure this out? And then you start to think like, maybe I'm not a software engineer because I can't even figure this out. You start to get, which is crazy, but it's
yeah,
gonna happen, right? You start
right,
thinking that you're supposed to know everything. It just doesn't work that way. So
yeah,
that was the most difficult part where I just really had to believe in myself,
hmm
and know that I'm supposed to be here. I I I I couldn't imagine now. I couldn't imagine myself not doing this
hmm
because I love it so much. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that was sort of my next question for you. With the job market just being so crazy right now and everyone working remotely mostly, um, are you
yeah.
happy that you went down this path to becoming a software engineer?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I am so happy. I could not imagine doing anything else.
Mm,
Like I
yeah.
I feel like there was a reason why everything happened like for me, from me leaving my last job.
hmm
Like I left my last job after being given a raise because
mm
I knew that the raise that I was being given was not compensating me for what I deserved,
mm
or for my work.
hmm
And I wanted to get into a career, an industry that will pay you for your work. They
hmm
don't care, what you look like or what. No, like what can you do? Are you a good person? Can I work with you?
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's it.
Yeah.
Here's your money. Work. Hey, we're all happy, right?
Yeah.
Like cool, right? So, and I think that this is the industry for that, and
hmm
I I want this for anyone that is interested. Like the joy I have, I want this for anyone that is, currently in the boot camp, currently graduating or thinking about entering into it. I want them to know that it is possible. Like trust the process. It is possible. More than that, trust yourself. Trust yourself, right? And just know that this is an industry that is continuously growing. Just like there is a new iPhone that's going to come out every year that we're going to buy, about two of them every year, right?
Yeah.
There there will always be, a company that is starting or a company that is growing,
hmm
and they're going to need software engineers. They're going to need you, so keep at it.
That is a perfect place to wrap up this Q&A. Thank you so much, Ashley, for talking with me today. We will be posting a recording and a transcript of this video interview with Ashley on the Course Report blog. as well with contact information for Codesmith, just in case you're interested in applying for one of their upcoming software engineering cohorts. And thanks to all of you for watching and tuning in. Tweet at us, email us, and let us know what topic you'd like to see us cover next on the Course Report blog. And in the meantime, follow Course Report on Facebook and Twitter. And if you're a Bootcamp alumni, don't forget to post a review of your coding Bootcamp experience on Course Report. It's a huge help to anyone who's thinking of getting into tech.